Hey friends, it's me, Patrick Gahl. Thank you so much for tuning in, and today you already read the title. We are covering authorization and authentication with Angular 14 and .NET 6. Now, if you're already thinking, well, authentication and authorization with .NET 6, this is something that I'm really interested in, well, I've got good news for you. Check out the link in the video description or the pinned comment, because with that, you get access to my authentication and authorization with .NET 6 course on Skillshare for free. Yes, that's true. Just click on the link and then you get 1 month free of Skillshare, and then you can also check out my course and all the other stuff that is available on Skillshare, because what a coincidence, this video is sponsored by Skillshare, and I am pretty sure you already know what it is. But if not, Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for anyone who loves learning and wants to explore their creativity and learn new skills like programming, for instance. Invest in yourself and your personal growth. If you have a specific skill you're trying to learn, Skillshare is the perfect place to start, from not only programming or web development, but also photography and illustration to graphic design, freelancing, productivity, and more. You can find classes that will match your goals and interests, like the ones from Marcus Brownlee regarding YouTube, for instance, because I'm doing that stuff here. I like this course very much, or the productivity classes of Ali Abdal and Thomas Frank. Again, I just love that. And of course, again, you can also get my course on Skillshare about authentication and authorization with .NET 6. Here we cover JSON, web tokens, roles, and refresh tokens, so maybe you want to have a look. And the best thing is, the first 1,000 people to use the link in the video description get 1 month free of Skillshare. So what are you waiting for? Just head down to the video description and grab your free month. Done. All right. Thanks for that. And now regarding this tutorial, we will actually focus on the Angular part, because the .NET 6 part, I did this already in another tutorial. Check out the info card, or again, the link in the video description, because there we will create this backend project, the web API with the function to log in, to register, and again to create a JSON web token and return this thing. And then we will also have a function that can only be accessed by authorized users. All right, so we have to provide this JSON web token then, and then the web API will check if this user can actually access this method. And now we use this backend and write an Angular 14 client application for that, a teeny tiny application, of course. So again, we will focus on the Angular part here. But regarding the backend, we will start with the actual GitHub repository, and then I will talk about that backend, so what we are actually doing there. So please bear with me. I rarely do this with code. You just have to copy or download on Git. This time, this tutorial would be exactly the same. So I thought, well, we did this already together, and you can just grab the code, run the application. We changed one little thing there. Sorry that I'm talking that much today in the introduction, but actually that's really important. So we changed one thing there. The backend was just used with the Swagger UI, meaning we just tested all the web service calls and the authentication part, and it worked. But if you now want to use an Angular application, then we get a CORS issue there. So we have to actually add this to the backend. Well, I did this while recording that. So when you now grab the GitHub repository, it is already pushed. So actually you do not have to do anything there. You just grab it, start it, and then it should work. But if you want to learn something, then I guess would be nice if you watch that too. So this is the backend part, and then again in the Angular part, we implement a really pretty form, a tiny form with the username and the password, and then 3 buttons to register, to log in, and then to use another method where we then call another function where the user has to be authorized. Again, he or she has to provide the bearer token, and for that we use an HTTP interceptor. And maybe this is the most important thing, and if you just want to know how to build this interceptor, then check out the time codes. There you will find that. All right, that's it for the introduction. If you like this video and learned something, I would really appreciate it if you click the like button, maybe even subscribe to my channel. And for more .NET stuff in your inbox and upcoming courses, then maybe the newsletter might be something for you. I'm pretty sure it is. So head down to the video description and subscribe to my newsletter. Thank you so much, and now enjoy the tutorial. All right, now let's start with the .NET part here, because this actually already exists. You can see it here on GitHub. And if you're only interested in the .NET part of this tutorial, please have a look at the link in the video description, because there you will find the actual tutorial for a JSON web token authentication created or done in .NET 6, and this is the GitHub repository for that. I rarely do this in my tutorials. Usually I really create all projects from scratch, and we will do that with the client application, with the Angular client application here. But regarding .NET, I think I already did this, and it's exactly the same thing. So I think it makes sense to either have a look at the tutorial, or you just get the code here from GitHub, start the application, and then we focus on the actual client implementation and the client application with Angular 14. And there we will create our login method, register method, and also use an interceptor to send the actual JSON Web Token with every request. So this is the goal now. Here you can see it. This is the link. You will also find the GitHub link in the video description. So please get the .NET code. And when you have it and you start the application, there it is, or not the application, the solution here with Visual Studio 2022, totally free. So don't worry about that. This is the community edition. Let me just explain this a little bit. So what we see here is, first we've got a user DTO we will use for our login method and our register method. And then we also have a user entity with the username, a password hash, password salt, and so on, even a refresh token. Now, what we do with that stuff is we'll have a look at the auth controller. Now, I know this is a fat controller, but I don't care in this case. It makes sense for this learning tutorial here. And the very first method we implement is the register method. And in this method, we create a password hash with also a password salt. This means this password salt is just a random sequence, as you can see down here. All right, so we're using an algorithm, and I won't go into deep here. Again, if you want to see that, please go to the other tutorial. But we will use a cryptography algorithm here to create a password salt and a password hash. And with that, to create a password, a password salt and a password hash. So the salt mixed up with the password given by the user results in a password hash. And why do we need a salt? Well, the thing is, if we would use the same algorithm over and over again without a salt, then the same plaintext password would result in the same password hash every single time. And well, that's not very secure, because it already happened that clever people can get the plaintext password from the actual hash value, but with the password salt and mix it up with the password, this hash value is different, even if the plaintext password would be the same. So we store the salt usually then in a database together with a password hash, and then we can get to the plaintext password and so on, or not really to the plaintext password, but we can then check if a user tries to log in with the given password here. And then we grab this password and the salt then from the database, run the algorithm again, and we get a new computed hash, and then we just compare the password hash and the computed hash. If this is equal, then the user used the proper password. I hope this was not too fast. Again, please have a look at the other tutorial otherwise. So we have this register method, and with this register method, we use our user DTO you already have seen here. We only need a username and a password for that. And then set the username, password hash, password salt, and more stuff actually later to this user entity. But this, again, the user entity is not really important for us. We will use in our Angular application only the user DTO for the registration and logging in. And regarding logging in, this is how this looks. We get again a user DTO provided by the user who tries to log in with the username and the password. I know you shouldn't do that in production, meaning tell the user or potential attacker that the user was not found or that the password is wrong. Please, in production, just use one error message, in essence, one message that tells the user that either the username or the password is wrong, because otherwise a potential attacker would know that, oh, this user here exists, so only the password is wrong, and then he or she could start a brute force attack, for instance, to get the proper password. All right, now with that, then we've got the login method, but here comes now the JWT, the JSON Web Token magic. We also have a function called create token. We won't cover refresh tokens here in this tutorial. We only cover the JSON Web Token part here. And this again is explained in detail in the other tutorial and also the Skillshare course, of course. So if you want to have a look there, please check out the link in the video description as well, or in the pinned comment to get your free month of Skillshare and then watch my course totally free for you in that case. Isn't that nice? So here in this function, we create so-called claims. And with these claims, they can be a name, a role, the ID, and so on. And important for us in this tutorial is the username, because this is what we want to see later when the user has logged in successfully, has authenticated successfully, is logged in. You know what I mean. And then we just want to return the username by the help of the actual token, because the username will be stored in the token, and then we, well, again, grab the username from that token and return it. So this is the whole magic. Again, won't explain this stuff. The token is valid for 1 day only, and then we return the JSON Web Token. And then in the end, we've got one more method. I already spoiled that a little bit. We will use this method here. I've got this magic keyword authorize, and this means that to get access to that method, the user has to be authorized, meaning we have to send a valid JSON Web Token, a bearer token, in the authorization header of the request, and then we access the get my name method of the user service. And again, what I already told you, we grab the name of the user of the HTTP context accessor and the HTTP context. And this whole magic works thanks to the JSON Web Token that is added to the authorization header. All right, so this is the .NET magic. Again, might be a real quick recap here, but to get a better understanding, there's the other tutorial or the Skillshare course. The only thing I want to show you here now is we can start this, grab the URL, and then use this URL in our Angular app. But there's still one thing we have to add actually, and this is done here in the program CS, because the problem is now that we get a CORS error, so a cross-origin resource sharing error, meaning that our Angular application will run on localhost port 4200, and this runs on localhost and any other port. We will see the port in a minute. So we have to enable CORS, and I would say let's do that now real quick. And we add this down here, similar to the other services. We write builder services and then add CORS. This gets some options, and this looks like that. We add a policy. So add policy, give this thing a name. So the name in our case might be ng origins. All right, great name for our Angular origins in essence. And then here we say regarding the actual policy, we add policy with origins. So these are then the origins we accept. In our case, this will be http:// and then localhost and then 4200 or 4200 for our Angular app, and we allow any method and also allow any header. All right, okay, I hope that's it. This should be it. And one more thing is necessary then. A bit further down, we write app use CORS, and then here we add our name, so the ng origins it is. All right, so this is the only thing we have to add here in the .NET project. This is our change. So, well, please do that. And then we can just leave the .NET stuff here. In essence, we can just run the app, have a quick look at the Swagger UI where we can test that already. And then I would say we move on with Angular. Okay, there it is already. See it here, our auth method is secured. That's why we see this little lock icon here. But we can totally use the register method here, for instance. Username password can be string. Let's execute this. And here now we see the URL. See that? It's port 7272. All right. And this is then what we will use for our Angular app. So please keep that running and open. And then we can grab the URL and see that this stuff works. And now here we can test this as well. It executes and we get our JSON web token. This is how this stuff looks. Nice, right? All right, okay, so Angular it is next, and I've got a folder open here. This is called ng.NET Auth Tutorial. Isn't that a great name? And in here now, we just open Visual Studio Code this time. That's what I use for client JavaScript or TypeScript apps, like Angular apps, for instance. Now, please make sure that Angular is installed. If you don't know how to do that, please have a look at the CRUD operation, the CRUD tutorial, Angular 14 and .NET 6, also on my channel. I hope I won't forget to add the info card and maybe the link in the video description as well, because there we cover all the CRUD operations, well as the name may already imply, and we also install Angular there. But I think when you're looking for authorization with Angular and .NET 6, you already have some kind of app running, so it might be already installed and you got your first steps with the application. So what we do now here is we just create our new Angular application with ng new, and we call this ng.net auth.ui. All right, I think that's a good name. Yes, we can use Angular routing, why not? And we use CSS, and this now takes a while. And when this is done, you already see the new folder here. I will fast forward the video and then open Visual Studio Code again in this folder. All right, here we are. This is now our Angular application. We've got our source folder, the app folder, and we will change these files here, of course. And additionally, let's already create a models folder and also a services folder. So new folder, models, and another one for our one and only auth service, and then later also the interceptor. Now the first model and the only model is our user. So let's create our user TS, and in here now we export the class user, and you've already seen that we only need the username. It was the user DTO in the .NET app. Let me have a quick look again. There it is, right? This is the user DTO, so we will use the username and the password here, and this is actually an empty string. And also the password, empty string, save that. Beautiful. Okay, now this is the model, and now I would like to start at the end actually. And with the end I mean the service, because the user would usually start with the form maybe, where the user enters the username and the password, then tries to register, login, and so on. Then we will use a function of the actual component where the form is, and then we would call the service. But here now I would like to start with the service first. For that, since we try to make web service calls there, so HTTP calls, we need the HTTP client module, and we add this one in the app modules file. So app module.ts it is, and here in the imports we add our HTTP client module, and we have to import this manually. So it is import and then HTTP client module from, or does it know where it is? Nope. Sometimes it just not works, but sometimes it does. Well, let's see. how it works with the forms module then. Angular common HTTP. All right, so this is the module we need, and now we can create our service, and let's use the command line interface here. It's not app, it's source, then app, and then services. And in here now we say ng generate service auth, and please skip the tests. Is it tests or test? I think it's tests. So let's try that. Looks good. All right, so now our auth service. So there it is. And now let's already inject our HTTP client here. HTTP client, that's the one. And now in here, we need the register method, the login method, and then the method that should be secured or only accessible by authorized users. So first maybe register, all right? So public register user of our user type, and it returns an observable with type any. I use any here because the, wait, let me just add the import here, because the .NET method or the controller here, it returns an actual user object. All right, and I am too lazy to add this object here, and that's pretty much the reason why I use any. I know it's not, you shouldn't do that maybe in TypeScript. Please bear with me here. So we return anything, and in here now we just say return this HTTP post, again any, and then the URL in a second, and we use the user object here for our post methods. And again, that's pretty much it. So let's have a quick look at Swagger UI. We already tested this. Let's just execute it one more time, and this is now our URL. And by the way, maybe I should explain this a little. Now, how does this work? Well, we've got our controller here, and you see it. This is the route for the controller, API, then controller in brackets. This means the name of the controller. And after that, then we have this attribute here, HTTP post. And then this is just short form for HTTP post, and then also the route attribute. So HTTP post and the route attribute are combined here, so that this is just the route. And in our, where is it? The launch settings JSON file, you see the base URL or the application URL, localhost 7272, in case you use HTTPS, right? And here the HTTP variant. All right, so that's that. And now back here, paste this, format this maybe a little bit, and we're done with our register method. And since we're already here, let's also add the login method, I would say. So let's just copy that, since I am a lazy coder. Already told you that, right? So login, you also use the user object here. Then we get a string actually. No, wait, not as, yeah, we get a string. We get a string here for the JSON Web Token, but this does not work here, and I will tell you why now. We use the user object, but the method, the login method here, this thing returns no object. It returns a string, and the default object that is expected here with these methods, the post methods, the get methods, and so on of the HTTP client, is an object in JSON form, right? So it tries to cast the object into a JSON, or expects a JSON, and then, well, wants to build an object out of that. But in this case, we only get a string, just a plain string, no object whatsoever. So we have to also change the return type or the response type here, and we do that by adding the options. You see it here, we've got the URL as a string, the body any, and then the options, and way down here we see response type. So now here we say response type is simply text. All right. And with that, then you see it here, somehow does not work, but when we remove the typecasting, then it works all of a sudden. All right, so this is why we have to change that. And now let's also add one more method, and then we are already done with the service here. And this is now the method for the authorized user. Here in .NET we called it, or I called it getMe. And maybe I should have called it getMyName, because this is actually the name and this is actually what this method does. So, but maybe you want to add more. So I don't know, maybe also your age or your address, whatever it is, or your avatar. Maybe this would make more sense. You got, I don't know, some kind of web application with users and images of the users, and then you want to know more than just the username. In that case, getMe would make sense, maybe. I leave that up to you. But this is the method getMe. So let's add another method here, getMe. And this now has no argument whatsoever. It returns, though, again, a string. And this time it's a get with a string now. We don't have to change the response type. Also no object here. And this is simply the controller name. All right, because it's a default get method. As you can see here, no route whatsoever. We can just use this URL. And that's it. This is our service now. All right. And from that, let's jump to the app component TS. So in the app component TS, we also add the methods. Actually, this is everything we need, and also the user object. So let's start with our user, which is a new user. All right, and now again, we add the register, the login, and the getMe methods, which just, call the AuthService. So we also need a constructor, and in this constructor we inject our AuthService. That's the one. Of course, brackets are missing. All right, and here now the methods again: register with our user. All right. And in here now, this AuthService, register user, and we subscribe. And again, just copy, paste it for the login. And here we call the login methods. And we do some more stuff here. Since we get the token back, I want to store the token in the local storage, and then at the end of this tutorial we will add the interceptor, the authentication interceptor, that then grabs this token from the local storage and sends it with every request and puts it to the or in the authorization header of every request. All right, I think it will make sense when we get there, but for now let's just add this thing to the local storage. So local storage it is, set item. You can give it any name, so auth token for instance, and token. So this is our login method now, and the last one, getMe. In here now we say this AuthService getMe, subscribe. And maybe we can just log that. So name as a string is what we get back. And in here now we just say console log name. All right. And this is now our app component actually. And now the last step, or not the very last step, again, we need the interceptor then. But I think the last step before the first test maybe is now the changes in the app component. We just remove everything from here, and now we add a div. Really not that pretty form actually. So input type is text, so that's the default one. Placeholder here is the name, and we will use the ng model here. So ng model, we need the form module for that, so we will add this in a minute. Username, that's the one for the name. Then we add the password. So this would look something like that. Yep, password. Maybe you can also, yeah, use the type password so we won't see it. Password, all right. That's that. And then we need buttons to register, login, and maybe also call the get me function. So button it is. Call this register. And in here now, on click, we call our register methods. And with a user, of course. All right. Actually, not really necessary, right? Thanks to the data binding. But still, let's just use it like that. Now login. Log in, and the last one, get me, no user here, get me. All right. And now the forms module, of course. I think maybe, well, that is known. Okay, this works. So let's have a look again. Yep, that's correct. All right, I would say we test that now. So let's open the console and then we just run this with ng serve -- open. And here is our beautiful application. Let me open the console and let me check if there's something here. Yep, from doing that earlier, I have a token here. But now, what do you want to do? We want to have a look at the network tab here. And we can, of course, make this a bit bigger. Oh, this looks nice. So let's add a name and a password. And then we click register. And this seemed to work. We have our payload here. Tony was the username. Password was Stark. In the preview, we get this any object here. This is the complete user object. And also here, of course, in the response. So this seems to work already. That's nice. Now let's try to log in with the exact same credentials. Say login, and it's calling the register method. Okay, now this was the first error. Nice. Login, login. Yeah, copy paste error, right? Nice. Okay, let's try that again. Tony Stark, login. This is the payload, and this is now our JSON web token. Isn't that nice? This already works, and we can have a look at JWT.io. There it is, and here we accept everything, and then we just paste this token, and you see there's the name. So this is one claim we added, and also the role. This is another claim. Let's have a look at the .NET app maybe, and this is, well, there it is. So here we added the username and also the role admin. So this now you can also see in the token, and we see the expiration date, August 2nd, and so on. All right, so this works already. And now the last step, again, the interceptor, because when I now try to call the get me method, it returns a 401, not authorized. This is what this means. So let's change that and add an interceptor. All right, back to the Angular application. Where is it? There it is. And I'd say in our services folder, we create this new file, auth-interceptor.ts. That's the one. And now let's just start with export class. Call this auth-interceptor. this implements now the HTTP interceptor. All right. And we also set this as injectable like that. All right. And here now we have to add a function actually, and we can do it here, of course, like that. Implement interface. So control period and then implement interface HTTP interceptor. And now we've got our intercept method with the request object, and then the HTTP handler called next. So this is for the middleware pipeline in essence, and then also returning an HTTP event. So what we now want to do here, it's actually pretty simple. First, let's grab the token. So const token it is, local storage, get item, and then auth token. Okay, just formatted this. And after that now, we just say if we have a token, then in that case, we just say the request that we got here and we intercept. We just clone this with a rec clone or request clone. And then here we can say set headers. And in here now, this gets another object. And here we want to set the authorization header and set this to use string interpolation here, at least try to. That works. Bearer, because this is a bearer token, and then add the token. All right, so this is what we do here in that case, and in the end we just return next handle and then the requests, and that's everything. Now of course we add the parenthesis here, and now that's it. And the very last step is to also add this interceptor as a provider in the app module file. So down here we open a new object and then say provide is HTTP interceptors, then use class, so this is then our class, the auth interceptor. All right, and then we can set multi to true. This simply means that we can use multiple interceptors here. All right, let's save everything. And then I would say we test that already. It should be rebuilt and reloaded. There it is. And now when we have a look again at the application here, we've got our token. So when we now simply call the getMe function, it should work. Let's have a look at the console as well. And here now, let's call getMe. We get a 200 back, means okay. And the response is the name. And this is also, well, I was hoping we can also see that here. But it says unexpected token. And this is actually what I wanted to change here. Let me just have a quick look. Response type is actually text. So why does this not work? Yeah, let's try to remove the typecasting here as well. And then set the response type here also to text. And try that one more time. GetMe, and now it works. All right, okay, so this is what I forgot here. Of course, when we return a string here in the post method, then and also here in the get method, then we should remove the typecasting and then set the response type to text. And now this works. All right, and Tony here as well. Nice. That's it. Yeah, that's it. I pushed everything to GitHub, so you get the backend there, you get the front end now, also there the Angular 14 client. If you have any questions or more requests regarding .NET or Angular, please head down to the comment section and write it down there. Thank you very much for watching already. If you learned something, then again, I'd appreciate it if you click the like button and subscribe to my channel. Also, the newsletter might be something for you for more .NET 6 stuff and then .NET 7 stuff and the upcoming .NET Web Development Bootcamp. You will be the first to know when this stuff is available, and you will get early access actually to that web development bootcamp and when you subscribe to the newsletter. So subscribe to the newsletter. It's awesome. Thank you very much. And now if you want to watch more videos, check out the videos here on the side. Just hang out a little, learn more .NET, and then we become best friends. Thank you again very much for watching. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope I see you next time. Take care.